Guys, the time has come for me to talk about the movie Don't Worry Darling. I went to an early screening of it on Monday because they were playing it at certain IMAX theaters. The premiere of the film was taking place in New York City, and they were also doing a Q&A before that was live streamed to all the theaters that were also watching it on Monday. It was a little awkward, I will say. Some of the answers were a little interesting.
If you had to rely on one person sitting here to answer the call that would save your life, who would it be?
I mean, Kate Berlant.
Okay.
And I would be right there on the phone.
I feel like you would.
Yeah.
Who's yours?
I think community is important. I really think I'd probably rely on everyone. I need a lot of things.
Very diplomatic.
I hate that.
Yeah.
And Harry was trying his best to answer the questions they had for him about the film.
I think when I read it, I think it was, I just loved the story, and the mood board was very tasteful. So I was a big fan of I'm a big fan of mood boards.
Give it up for mood board.
Mood boards.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, I love the story. I thought it was very kind of, it says a lot, I think, about, words. More words. But just, society and patriarchy and the whole thing. So it was, I was very happy to be able to...
Florence Pugh and Chris Pine were both absent from the premiere as they were working on other projects, but they did send their best to viewers.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight to see our film.
Even though I'm working halfway around the world,
And I'm all the way in Los Angeles in production myself.
we did not want to miss this opportunity to thank you for coming to experience Don't Worry Darling in IMAX.
We guarantee it's going to be a thrilling ride, and we really hope you enjoy the film.
Cheers.
And then the film started. All the little girlies were cheering for their man Harry when he came on the screen, you guys. People were screaming for him as if we were in the pit of his concert. It was an experience, I will say that. They were definitely giddy over his intimate scenes and such throughout the movie. So if you are not going to like that, you probably should wait a couple weeks to see the movie, because I know those Harry Styles fangirlies will be in there. I didn't mind it. I honestly did think that it was kind of cute that they were so excited to see their fave. I was in a good mood that day, so I was like, oh, okay, that's cute. But that was the thing that was going on during the entire movie. Anyway, going into the film, I knew absolutely nothing besides all the drama that had gone on, but I wasn't letting that affect anything that I was feeling for this movie. The trailer didn't give much away at all and left me wondering what the heck it was going to be about. And if I had to describe it, I would say that it was giving Black Mirror, The Truman Show, and very random, but the movie The Giver. If you guys ever watched that or read the book, it was kind of like that in terms of the story. And as much as everyone was giving this really low reviews and people were just saying so many bad things about Harry and his acting and all that, I was kind of going into this with high hopes because I liked Olivia Wilde's Booksmart. I really liked that. So I had high expectations for her as a director, and I just felt like from the trailer of the movie, it looked really beautiful and I felt like it was promising. Then all the drama happened and I was like, I don't know, but I was holding out hope. So the story presented to us had me completely engaged in the film. I will tell you guys that. I was so fascinated by the story and what was going on. I had my mouth open for half the movie, and the other half of the movie I was covering my mouth because I was in shock at what was going on and or what was about to happen. I absolutely loved the score for the film as well, and I knew I made the right decision seeing it in theaters to get the full freaking experience. Seriously, seeing it in there, some of these intense scenes, I was feeling it in my body. I was like, oh my god. And just the songs, it was so good. I was listening to some of them on the car ride home because I liked it that much. It was a movie, you guys. Like Harry said in that one interview, it's a movie that feels like a movie.
My favorite thing about the movie is it feels like a movie. It feels like a real go to the theater film movie that you kind of the reason why you go.
And it was a movie for sure. I hope you guys know that was a joke. but it was a really good movie, I will say. The makeup, the costumes, the cinematography, the entire production design, truly everything about this movie was beautiful. Florence Pugh, obviously amazing. She truly embodied this character and gave such a thrilling performance. I loved her before this, but this made me love her that much more as an actress. She was the right person to play Alice for sure. She completely embodied this character, took us on this emotional journey, learning with her about everything happening around her. Loved her. More on the other actors in a minute, but I first want to talk about the main storyline here, which I do feel like the film spent so much time on the buildup of what was going on that when we started learning more, it was getting very overwhelming. But if you want to go into this film knowing nothing, then just click away right now. But I'm going to tell you guys what the premise of this film is. So the movie surrounds characters Jack and Alice, played by Harry Styles and Florence Pugh. They live in a community they call Victory, a place where men work on a top secret project and they drive to work every day. The wives stay at home, clean, cook, and relax. The wives don't drive. They take the trolley places to shop or relax by the pool. It's supposed to be paradise. As we learn more about the picture-perfect couple that Alice and Jack seem to be, we notice that Alice starts to question her surroundings. She's like kind of getting these visions, like she's seeing things, and she's starting to wonder why every day is practically the same and what's really going on. Kind of like that one episode, this is so random, but of SpongeBob where Squidward moves away to the community where everyone is the same, doing the same thing every day. That was their whole damn community. So that was Alice's life. She was starting to see this picture-perfect paradise world as this very eerie, sinister place with a lot of secrets. And when she begins to question things, she is gaslit and scared because they're basically threatening her, that she's like about to ruin things if she keeps asking questions. She's definitely made to feel insane, thus causing her to ask more and more questions and become more and more skeptical of the people around her. I read somewhere in a review that someone said they had wished this movie was a limited series instead of a movie because of all the details that they wanted this film to go to in the end. And I so wish there was more to it because it was so good, but I needed more time for the story, especially at the end. The end felt so rushed. I needed more. I wanted all the little details of how everything happened. Now, before we talk about questions, I need to give a spoiler warning. I'm about to talk more in depth about the film and what happens, including thoughts I was left with after the movie. So for those of you who have watched and seen it, let me know please what you thought, because maybe you guys noticed something I didn't with some of these. But I've been reading a lot of reviews and people also seem to have questions about the movie, and I don't think they want to be super specific yet because the movie isn't out yet. But I'm posting this when the movie is out or like about to be out, so I know a lot more people have seen it, and if you are out there and you've seen it, please let me know if you got these same questions. So to further talk about this movie, we are made to think that this is the world Jack and Alice live in, this 50s time period in the desert community of Victory. The men go to work at Victory Project headquarters and the women are told to tend to their homes, their husbands, and enjoy life. The one rule is that they aren't to leave town. They cannot go to the Victory Project headquarters where their husbands work. They are told it is not safe for them. Things start to get weird when at a party at Frank's home, the leader of their community has a get-together at his home where a resident of Victory, Margaret, starts to freak out and everyone calls her crazy. Alice, being Margaret's neighbor and a friend, was concerned but didn't want to get caught up in all that she was saying because everyone was calling her crazy. We then learn that Margaret's son is no longer alive and that she took him out by the Victory Project headquarters after seeing something, and that afterwards her son was gone and only she was found. And people were saying that's why she's going crazy, because she lost her son. We then see that Alice is experiencing these visions and constantly is humming this one song throughout the film that somehow is causing her to trigger these visions. She begins to take note of her surroundings more, and it is amplified when she is on the trolley one day and sees an airplane in the sky crash. She gets off the trolley and ventured near Victory Project headquarters and sees no evidence of a crash. And when she goes up to headquarters and puts her hands on the building, she immediately wakes up in her home again, and Jack is home from work making dinner for her and says that when he came home, she was napping. She is super confused as to how she got home, but tries to shake it off as a bad dream. Later, she witnesses Margaret try and take her life, but she is quickly taken away by men in red suits and hears that Margaret is actually alive, but her husband is fired and no longer working for the Victory Project. She starts to question how it's possible that Margaret survived, saying there was simply no way after what she witnessed that she was alive. But people try and tell Alice that she just had a little fall and is totally fine, and Jack doesn't believe her at all, and she is made to feel crazy. Later on in the movie, Jack and Alice host a dinner at their home where a couple of their neighbors come over, and Frank and his wife Shelley end up coming to the dinner, which is a very big deal as they are the leaders of this community. Prior to dinner, Frank confronts Alice in the kitchen when it's just the two of them, acknowledging that he knows she isn't actually making things up and challenges her to keep going. During dinner, she's made to look crazy as she starts to point out that everyone is always from the same place here. Everyone met their husband the same way, and it's just really strange. Shelley, Frank's wife, ends up telling Alice off, saying it's disrespectful for her to make such accusations when they are guests in her home, and after she says all this, everybody leaves. That night, she seems to have convinced Jack she doesn't feel safe there and they need to leave town and never come back. He agrees, but it's all a trick to capture Alice and send her to shock therapy to try and reduce her memories and stop her from asking any more questions. Once she comes home from shock therapy, she seemed to be cured from her questioning until she is triggered by the song that she was humming from earlier once more, and things start coming back to her. We then learn the real truth about everything that's going on and the Victory Project. That the world that we have been seeing isn't real at all. That Alice actually used to be a doctor and her and Jack were struggling financially and in their relationship. She was working overtime to provide for them as Jack had just lost his job and they weren't being intimate as a couple. We see that Jack, who has an American accent in real life, seems to be obsessed with this thing called the Victory Project. And we see him listening to videos of what sounds like Frank's voice talking about the Victory Project and this program that you can join. And we learn it basically is this virtual reality world where everything is seemingly perfect. We see Jack starting to sign up for the Victory Project program and select a whole new identity and even selects to have a British accent in this Victory Project world. We see that in order to enter, you put these devices on your eyes and enter this dream-like state. In the virtual reality world, Jack admits to Alice that they were so unhappy, so he did this for them, so they could be perfect together, and says he worked so hard for them to be here, and she just gets to stay home all day, and he is so upset that she isn't appreciating it. They get into a huge argument because Alice is really upset that this choice was taken away from her and that he chose this life for her. She liked her job, she liked working, and she feels like everything was taken away from her because he chose for them to enter this program. By the end of this argument, Jack ends up dead, and Bunny walks in and sees, and she then admits to Alice that she's known about everything this entire time. We learn that Bunny actually chose to be in this world because she lost her children in real life, but she can actually be with them in this dream world. And in this dream world, children aren't actually real because it's not real life. But for other women, their husbands have chosen for them to live in Victory. She then tells Alice that she needs to run because men in Victory also die in real life. And she says because of Jack dying, they will be coming after her right now, so she needs to get out as soon as possible. She says because Jack isn't alive, he can't try anymore to put her back into the simulation if she gets out. She just needs to go to the Victory Project headquarters, put her hands on the building, and wake herself up, and she will be safe. And in the real world again. She then is chased by men in red suits who previously took her away after watching Margaret take her own life, and also when she was taken to shock therapy. She eventually makes it to the building, and the film ends. So if you guys watched it, you'll understand, but why didn't we learn more about the airplane that she saw crash? What happened to it? Did it actually crash, and where did it go? When she got up there, it literally just, like, there was no crash. And why did it warp out of the simulation they were in? Like, it literally was in the sky and it was like, bloop. Literally, it warped, okay? It looked like they were in a bubble or something. We also never learned about what those earthquake-like moments were throughout the film. I feel like they happened so much at the beginning of the movie where they would just like randomly be having a conversation and the room would just be shaking, and we never found out why that was even happening. The ladies talked to each other once about how it meant their husbands were hard at work, but what was that? What did they do at work all day? I want to know what they were doing at work all day long, cuz we never really learned what they were doing. To the best of my knowledge, when the guys go to work at the Victory Project headquarters, they're entering real life to work real jobs that actually pay for them to do this experience, as if this is like some club that they are all members of. This is my guess at what the movie really is. When Florence goes to the Victory Project headquarters and puts her hands on the things, she like wakes up. And when Jack comes home from his real life job, he sees that she is awake, not in Victory. She's not in this dreamlike state. She's not in the virtual reality world like she should be. And he puts her back in, and then he puts himself back in it. And that's why when she wakes up in her bed and is super confused, like, how did I get home and all that stuff, he's like, oh, you were napping when I got home, just trying to trick her. But he knew exactly what happened. He was just trying to get away with forcing her to be in this world without her realizing. I also want to know more about why Frank's wife turned on him. She was so defensive at the dinner party, only to turn on him in the end. I wanted more backstory to their relationship and him creating this whole environment and what led her to be so upset that she would turn on him. Like, what is that about? Where was the backstory? I need some more of that. Also, was Olivia Wilde's character the only wife that chose to be there? That's what it seemed like at the end of the movie. Also, fun fact, if you guys watch this movie, her daughter in the movie is her daughter in real life. Fun fact. The other questions that I had were, where did the wives go when they rejected Victory? And where did their husbands go? They basically insinuated that their husbands were fired from the Victory Project if their wives went crazy. So where did they go? Did they just go back to real life, or did they actually kill them in real life to protect the secrecy of this whole entire little world? I want to know what happens to Margaret, and I want to know what happens to her husband. Like, did they end up being okay, or, you know, what's up with that? Just like a little lost upon that. Is that what those plane crashes were? Someone let me know. And why is it that when the men die in Victory, they die in real life, but that isn't the case for the women? In that ending scene where Bunny is talking to Alice, she says, you know, Jack isn't alive anymore. He can't put you back in. If you drive out of our community, you won't come back here. You will be in real life. Which I wish they had shown more of him putting her back into Victory, and the first time it really happening of her going out into the desert and then she wakes up in the bed all of a sudden. I wish at the end they had done like a flashback to see like how she really did end up there. Like, how are they plopped back into the simulation? I want to know more. I know they had those devices on their eyes and Jack was holding her hostage in the bed, you know, to get her into Victory. But I mean, once they put those things on their eyes, like, do they just like appear randomly in Victory and then he put her on the bed? Like, I think I'm thinking in too much detail here, but I just really want to know the little details. It's just such a fascinating story and a fascinating concept that I wanted more, and I have all these questions, but I know it builds curiosity to not give like the full answers. And it honestly just makes me wish that Florence was doing interviews for this movie. I would love to get her insight on like what she thinks about this movie. And I wish the whole cast in general was doing more interviews specifically about what happens. And maybe they will once the movie comes out. They can give a little bit more insight since they won't be spoiling things because more people would have seen it. But I just hope that they talk more in depth about what they think happened, the little concepts and things that weren't answered in the film, but from their point of view, how they interpreted it. Now, going into towards like the end of the film, Alice looked to have been held captive by Jack for a while since she had bruising where she was tied down to that bed. So when did he start holding her hostage to then actually prepare to enter Victory? Because at first, when I watched it, my instant thought was that was the first time they were entering Victory. They were showing him putting those things on her eyes and he was getting his like photo taken. He was selecting, you know, how he wanted to be and how he wanted to sound. He wanted a British accent and all that stuff. I feel like uncovering their past and how they got to Victory and what Victory really is and how it works, it was so rushed that I'm like, I couldn't tell if that was just the first time they were both going in and they were showing us how they both entered victory, and he had just been keeping her there for a while as he prepared, and that's why she had bruises, or she had bruises because it had been a while and they had already been in victory, but she got out and he was just putting her back in. I needed way more of the backstory. Like, we learned she was a doctor and that they were having a rough time in their relationship because she needed to take on more hours because, you know, he wasn't doing well at work, and I think he had just lost his job, and so she was pulling the weight in their relationship. She didn't want to be intimate with him anymore, really, because she was working so much. And then all of a sudden he's like invested in the Victory Project, like listening to YouTube videos of Frank talking about this world, and then the next thing you know, Florence is like strapped to the bed and he's putting these things in her eyes. I needed more. How did we get there? Because clearly time had passed, because when she came home after that one shift, his hair was a lot shorter than it was when they actually laid down in the bed together, and we were seeing them go into victory. Also, what's the goal with the Victory Project? Do they age up? Do they die there? Do they age up in real life? Or does it stop that? But regardless of all those questions, Harry looked amazing. Obviously, he was supposed to be this hot, quote unquote, dream husband, and he was just that in the Victory Project. Although I think that Olivia made it out to be that these intimate scenes in the movie were going to be a lot more hot and heavy and steamy, and like, you know, the females were going to love it, when I think that it was just like really random times that they were getting intimate. And I really like it. Side note, I do have another question. Why did he have to dance for everyone when he was promoted? That was so weird. He got that ring and he like put his tap shoes on. That was so weird. But I will say Harry was getting so much trash for the acting in this film, and I honestly really enjoyed his performance. I think he did great for this being his first really big role in a movie, and he's obviously acting up against people that have been in multiple films, and they have had a career in doing this for years now, and Harry just stepping into it and doing something like this, I do think that he did a really good job. Now, I mentioned this earlier with my question, but why didn't we see Frank's wife more? There was such a story to be told there, but instead we saw Olivia Wilde's character, Bunny, a ton. Like, I think we saw her a little too much. And I know that she played one of Alice's best friends, but her character wasn't adding much other than acting like one of the husbands, honestly, gaslighting the girls, rejecting Victory, and starting to ask questions about things. And Frank was obsessed with Alice. I just want to know why. He was testing her to see how far she would go to test the Victory Project, but it didn't seem like he was testing other wives who had rejected it. They were no longer there, seemingly no longer alive either. So why was he keeping Alice around? What was so special about her to him? Overall, I think the movie was so fun to watch. It was a ride. I know I have a lot of questions, so it might seem like I didn't actually like it, even though I said I did, but I really liked it, okay? These questions, they are things I wish they went in more detail about, because I think they could have, and I totally agree with the person that said that they wished it was a limited series, because then I think we would have got those questions answered. But even without those answers, I still really enjoyed this movie. I do think people are being rather harsh on it, and I don't know if it's because of all the drama, because Harry Styles is in it, because they want Olivia to fail, because this was one of the few movies Warner Brothers chose to release this year. I don't know if those are the reasons why they're being extra critical of it. I don't know why they're being so critical. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't bad. I really liked it. I do think it was one of my favorite movies of this year. I'm sorry if you absolutely hated it and you don't agree with me. That's totally fine. But it's crazy how wild the difference in these reviews really are, because as I was walking out of the theater, someone literally said that they thought it was horrible, so it clearly could go either way. And I know that the people sitting next to me really loved it too. They were talking about how much they really liked it, and I could hear people as we were leaving the theater also say that they liked it. Maybe it's up for interpretation, but I guess that just means you'll have to see it for yourself, which I think you should, because I can tell you all day long what happened, but you gotta see it to really know if it was good. So that was Don't Worry, Darling. I hope you guys see it so you guys can like answer some of these questions, or tell me if you guys have these same questions after you watch the movie. But please let me know if you guys did. Let's have a conversation below, please. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.